Big day in Canberra today with the House sitting for the first time in almost a month, and things aren't looking good for the Labor government with today's sobering news poll figures, ongoing questions about the cosy dealings with Qantas, and the Deputy PM's use of charter flights also being a topic of discussion. Joining me now to get the latest on all that and more is the Australian's national editor, Dennis Shanahan. Dennis, welcome to the program. Now, there's only 40 days until Australians go to the polls to vote for the Voice or vote against the Voice. The poll suggests the no camp is well ahead, but it's the yes side that has all the cash, a massive war chest to play with. How do you see the next month playing out?
Well, I think obviously based on today's news poll, the First Time news poll has had the no case with a majority and a further fall in yes support. But of course, polls are not predictive. They don't tell you what's going to happen in 4 weeks, 5 weeks' time. They tell you what things may have looked like on the last weekend. So, yes, it looks grim for the Yes campaign. I've spoken to people who are supporters of the Yes campaign, and they fear that they are headed for defeat and possibly a heavy defeat. But as you say, the Yes campaign has a huge amount of money to spend. They are throwing money into this, more than $100 million. They are trying to grab celebrities and, of course, Johnny Farnham. But I think one thing that needs to be looked at here is that the Yes campaign has to actually convince people who are now voting or committed to voting no. I notice that, the Yes campaign continues to say 40% of people are undecided, and that gives them a very good chance of being able to pull off a slightly more narrow victory. But the news poll has people under double digits, 9% as being undecided. That means people then have to be convinced to change from no to yes, not just undecided, but no to yes. That is a big ask, and I think that you'd have to say that the Yes campaign is in big trouble. It's got big money to get out of that trouble, but it is starting very much from behind.
Well, that big money, they can spread that around the country, whilst the No Camp, with their much smaller budget, is really focusing on South Australia, focusing on Tasmania. And I think that's a mistake. I think they've got a very good chance of winning New South Wales, winning even Victoria, leftist heartland, but they don't have the resources of the Yes Camp to just campaign everywhere. Now, Dennis, the PM is always saying the Voice is about uniting Australians, but it's not even uniting Indigenous communities. In Tasmania, the Yes campaign is being dogged by power struggles between warring Indigenous groups whose opposition to the Voice is driven by a fear that their rivals will control it. This is a report in The Australian. Up in Cape York, there's animosity from some elders towards Noel Pearson. The list goes on. Do you buy Labor's claim that 80% of Indigenous Australians back the Voice?
Well, I think that specific claim has some really big questions about it. Even the ABC's own fact check has looked at the claims from the Prime Minister that 80 to 90% of Indigenous Australians support the Voice. Now, the caveat that even the ABC fact check, RMIT fact check, has placed on that claim is that they say, yes, there were polls that showed support amongst Indigenous Australians of that level. But A, they were a very long time ago, and B, the professional pollsters say that trying to poll Indigenous Australians is the most difficult thing that you could do, and the pros in the business were saying at best they could say, the best you could say was that there was 50% or more support, not being able to put a number like 80 or 90% on it. So I
No.
have been sceptical of that number for quite some time, and I'm pleased to see that the ABC fact check actually does at least put big caveats on Anthony Albanese's claim.
Now, Defence Minister Richard Marles copped it today over concerns he has been spending an excessive amount of taxpayer money on VIP flights, including flights to go see the Matildas. Let's have a look.
Can the Minister confirm whether he has taken his golf clubs with him on any Defence VIP special purpose aircraft flights, and if so, on how many flights?
We know in their darkened rooms the only conversation they're having is about how they get back on the planes. Because if the requests from the Leader of the Opposition to my office is any indication, it has been their singular focus.
Dennis, how do you see this issue? Is it cutting through?
Oh, I think so. Look, whenever politicians are seen to be using their privileges and they're seen to be, particularly during times of a very tight cost of living, rising inflation, low wage rises, if politicians are seen, who also got a wage rise, are seen to be spending up big on taxpayer-funded goods and services, they are seen poorly by the public. And I think Richard Marles will suffer from this. I can see cartoonists continuing to put a big set of golf clubs over Richard Marles' shoulder in the future. He tried to hit back, but Peter Dutton saying, Peter Dutton tried to cadge a lift on the VIP flight to 2 Matildas games, and in so doing disclosing that he was actually using the VIP flight to go to Matilda's matches himself. So, yes, this is one of those things that can really annoy people. It'll cut through. I mean, Richard Marles is a decent character, but once you get into these positions, once you get onto the government benches, you have to be very careful how you use government funds. And remember, Bronwyn Bishop's helicopter ride to a golf course cost her job and the Liberals a lot of support.
Dennis Shanahan, thank you so much for your time this evening.